Breathe softly. Allow your mind to gently turn toward a universal, uncomfortable truth, the existence of pain. In the quiet internal landscape of the soul, we all carry scars, remnants of moments when trust was broken, love was betrayed, or faith was misplaced. These moments of injury compel us toward a fundamental choice, one that defines the depth of our character. Why do we choose vengeance over awareness? This question is the core paradox of human maturation. Vengeance, the sharp, immediate impulse to strike back, promises a quick fix. Awareness, the slow, difficult path of understanding, demands patience and surrender. When a person is wounded, the instinct is not merely to seek justice as an abstract concept. The instinct is to seek the restoration of safety desperately. A wound is a structural breach. It doesn't just cause emotional pain. It shatters the psychological balance we rely on to navigate the world. The betrayal tells us that our judgment was flawed, our boundaries were weak, or the world is fundamentally less trustworthy than we believed. This realization is terrifying. Vengeance, therefore, is not primarily an expression of hatred toward the perpetrator. It is a desperate, often unconscious, failed attempt to restore psychological balance after it has been violently lost. It is a shout in the face of chaos, a defiant declaration, "I am not weak. You cannot destabilize me. I must regain control of the narrative." This need for control is the foundation of the reaction. Vengeance seeks to re-establish the psychic equilibrium by imposing an equal and opposite disequilibrium onto the person who caused the harm. If I can make them hurt, my own pain will feel less singular, less unfair, less overwhelming. Yet, the pursuit of vengeance is a path of tragic illusion. The act of striking back rarely, if ever, restores the lost balance. Instead, it binds us irrevocably to the pain. We become tethered to the very person and the very event we wish to escape. We carry the wound, and now we also have the burden of the strike. The initial pain multiplies. The higher response, awareness, there is, however, a higher, quieter response available to us, one that transcends the reactive cycle of pain for pain. This is the path of awareness. Awareness recognizes that the wound, while painful, is not just a tragedy. It is a revelation. The most profound wisdom we can glean from betrayal is this: to see the wound as a revelation of a face we had not seen. The person who inflicted the injury has done us an irreversible favor. They have revealed their true nature, their limitations, and their capacity for harm before we invested more of our finite time, love, and life into the illusion. Awareness allows us to smile gently and step away, not because we are weak or unable to fight back, but because we are stronger than the impulse to carry the heavy stone of resentment and reciprocal pain. We choose to conserve our energy, redirecting it not toward the past, but toward the reconstruction of a wiser, more resilient future self. The choice between vengeance and awareness is the choice between remaining a victim of the past and becoming the author of the future. Vengeance roots us in the identity of the injured party, forcing us to constantly relitigate the wrong. Awareness roots us in the identity of the conscious observer, granting us the clarity to extract the lesson, seal the knowledge, and move on, unburdened. This journey of reflection will now dissect the fierce magnetic pull of anger, analyze why revenge ultimately magnifies pain, and ultimately lead us toward the silent, profound strength that comes with choosing the higher path of peace. Allow your mind to remain open to the quiet strength of non-reaction. Settle into the stillness. Turn your attention to the fiery core of human reaction, anger. When a boundary is violated, when trust is shattered, the immediate, powerful surge of anger is a natural biological alarm system. It is the psyche's command to protect itself, to withdraw resources, and to acknowledge that significant harm has occurred. The philosophical challenge lies in what we do with the alarm signal. Do we use it as information to guide our withdrawal, or do we allow it to command a counterstrike? The illusion of control, rejecting weakness, vengeance. is overwhelmingly chosen over awareness because it offers the illusion of control, a balm desperately needed by the psyche that feels violated and weak. The core trauma of betrayal is the revelation of powerlessness. The wound proves that we were unable to prevent the harm, unable to predict the outcome, and perhaps naive in our trust. To the ego, this experience of weakness is unacceptable. Vengeance becomes the instant, primitive solution to this shame. It is a rejection of the experience of weakness. By striking back, the injured party momentarily restores a sense of agency. I may have been harmed, but I choose how I respond, and my response will be painful. Therefore, I am not a helpless victim. This is the magnification of the injured identity. The focus shifts from the painful reality of the injury to the intoxicating identity of the avenger. This new, powerful identity is a comfortable defense, allowing the person to bypass the difficult, humiliating work of accepting vulnerability and grief. The paradox, magnifying pain yet. This temporary rush of power is paid for with the permanent magnification of pain. The most profound paradox of vengeance is that it is a cycle designed to prevent healing. For the vengeance narrative to remain compelling, the wound must be kept fresh and immediate. Vengeance necessitates fixation. It requires the constant recalling, reliving, and re-justifying of the original injury to fuel the counterstrike. This constant dwelling prevents the psychological process of detachment, the slow work of turning the past injury into a neutralized memory. Vengeance creates a bond. By actively seeking the suffering of the perpetrator, the injured party binds their own emotional well-being to the actions and fate of the person they hate. If the perpetrator does not suffer as desired, the avenger suffers more. The act of revenge is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. The avenger, convinced they are seeking freedom, is tragically embracing a self-imposed perpetual servitude to the past. Anger, resistance to understanding reality. This leads directly to the question, is anger merely a natural reaction, or is it a resistance to understanding the new reality? Anger is initially a natural reaction. It is the body's energy mobilizing against an intruder. However, when this energy is channeled into vengeance, it becomes a resistance to understanding reality. Reality, in this context, is the painful truth that the loss is final. The person you trusted is not who you thought they were. The past cannot be undone. Vengeance attempts to undo this finality by forcing a corrective action in the present. It says, I refuse to accept the truth of the betrayal. I will only accept a world where the balance has been restored by my hand. Awareness, conversely, accepts the finality. It acknowledges the rage, but uses it as fuel for internal reconstruction. Awareness says, the loss is real. The pain is real. Now, how do I build a better future on this new, painful piece of knowledge? The choice to pursue vengeance is the choice to keep fighting the last battle. The choice to pursue awareness is the choice to start building the next life. The cycle of vengeance, driven by the ego's fear of weakness, offers a momentary sense of control at the cost of long-term emotional entanglement. To truly break this cycle, we must address the psychological attachment that makes the perpetrator's fate seem so important. In the next part of our reflection, we will examine the subtle yet powerful role that emotional attachment and fear of loss play in perpetuating the need for revenge. Remain still. The recognition of these destructive cycles is the first step toward freedom. Settle into the stillness. Reflect on the painful truth that hate is often just a reversed form of attachment. The most insidious psychological trap of the wound is that it creates a new, powerful, and negative emotional dependency. We become irrevocably tethered to the person who caused the harm, constantly tracking their well-being, their failure, or their peace. Why does the injured party need to see the one who hurt them suffer? because this suffering is perceived as the ultimate non-negotiable proof that our loss was significant. The fear of the invalidated loss. The trauma of betrayal extends beyond the action itself. It creates a deep existential fear, the fear of the invalidated loss. The core pain whispers, if the perpetrator is thriving, smiling and untouched by their actions, then my pain was unnecessary, my trust was foolish, and my loss was ultimately insignificant. The human ego cannot easily bear the thought of having suffered intensely for a trivial or unacknowledged cause. The vengeful impulse seeks to correct this psychic imbalance by forcing the world to acknowledge the gravity of the wrong. The suffering of the perpetrator becomes the external validation that the injury mattered, that the pain was legitimate, and that the sacrifice made in trust was worthy of a cosmic response. Revenge, in this sense, is less about inflicting pain and more about demanding recognition. It is a desperate plea for the universe to confirm, my love, my trust, and my subsequent suffering were important. The price must be paid, not for punishment, but for acknowledgement. The psychological bond of resentment. This need for recognition forms the psychological bond of resentment. Resentment is not merely remembered anger, it is anger actively nourished. To maintain the desire for vengeance, the injured party must constantly dedicate psychic energy to two core tasks. Rehearsal of the injury. The mind must perpetually replay the offense, keeping the injustice fresh, immediate, and emotionally charged. This mental rehearsal ensures the wound never scars over and remains open to feed the energy required for the counterstrike. Tracking the target. The avenger must remain emotionally invested in the perpetrator's life. The hope that the target will suffer, fail, or encounter misfortune becomes a powerful negative goal. The avenger's mood and subsequent happiness become entirely dependent on the unhappiness of another. This dependency is the true victory of the person who inflicted the injury. They may walk free in the physical world, but they remain the chief architect of the avenger's inner life. The emotional center of the avenger's existence is outsourced to the person they claim to hate. The bond of resentment turns the pursuit of justice into a form of self-imprisonment. We cannot begin to heal until we are willing to declare that the perpetrator's fate is entirely irrelevant to our own well-being. The illusion of symmetry. Pursuit of revenge relies on the illusion of symmetry, the belief that an equal and opposite action will neutralize the original event. The ego demands an eye for an eye, a loss for a loss, a pain for a pain. But life is fundamentally asymmetrical. No retaliatory action can truly restore the original innocence, the original trust, or the original time lost. All revenge accomplishes is the creation of a second, new injury, a fresh source of guilt, entanglement, and karma that only deepens the cycle. The highest form of freedom is achieved when we sever this attachment. It is when we finally declare that the person who hurt us no longer holds any emotional currency in our lives. Their happiness no longer diminishes us, and their suffering no longer enhances us. This realization leads us toward the higher path of awareness, where the focus shifts entirely from the fate of the perpetrator to the fate of the self. We must recognize that the most powerful act of self-love is the radical choice to disengage from the cycle of mutual pain. In the next unit, we will dissect the deceptive comfort that anger provides, analyzing why we cling to the warm illusion of righteous vengeance instead of embracing the cold. Clarifying truth of acceptance remains settled. The severing of this negative attachment is the true path to emotional sovereignty. Settle into the stillness. Reflect on the painful truth that hate is often just a reversed form of attachment. The most insidious psychological trap of the wound is that it creates a new, powerful, and negative emotional dependency. We become irrevocably tethered to the person who caused the harm, constantly tracking their well-being, their failure, or their peace. Why does the injured party need to see the one who hurt them suffer? Because this suffering is perceived as the ultimate, non-negotiable proof that our loss was significant. The fear of the invalidated loss, the trauma of betrayal, extends beyond the action itself. It creates a deep existential fear, the fear of the invalidated loss. The core pain whispers, if the perpetrator is thriving, smiling and untouched by their actions, then my pain was unnecessary, my trust was foolish, and my loss was ultimately insignificant. The human ego cannot easily bear the thought of having suffered intensely for a trivial or unacknowledged cause. The vengeful impulse seeks to correct this psychic imbalance by forcing the world to acknowledge the gravity of the wrong. The suffering of the perpetrator becomes the external validation that the injury mattered, that the pain was legitimate, and that the sacrifice made in trust was worthy of a cosmic response. Revenge, in this sense, is less about inflicting pain and more about demanding recognition. It is a desperate plea for the universe to confirm, my love, my trust, and my subsequent suffering were important. The price must be paid not for punishment, but for acknowledgement, the psychological bond of resentment. This need for recognition forms the psychological bond of resentment. Resentment is not merely remembered anger, it is anger actively nourished. To maintain the desire for vengeance, the injured party must constantly dedicate psychic energy to two core tasks. Rehearsal of the injury. The mind must perpetually replay the offense, keeping the injustice fresh, immediate, and emotionally charged. This mental rehearsal ensures the wound never scars over and remains open to feed the energy required for the counterstrike. Tracking the target. The avenger must remain emotionally invested in the perpetrator's life. The hope that the target will suffer, fail, or encounter misfortune becomes a powerful negative goal. The avenger's mood and subsequent happiness become entirely dependent on the unhappiness of another. This dependency is the true victory of the person who inflicted the injury. They may walk free in the physical world, but they remain the chief architect of the avenger's inner life. The emotional center of the avenger's existence is outsourced to the person they claim to hate. The bond of resentment turns the pursuit of justice into a form of self-imprisonment. We cannot begin to heal until we are willing to declare that the perpetrator's fate is entirely irrelevant to our own well-being. The illusion of symmetry. Pursuit of revenge relies on the illusion of symmetry, the belief that an equal and opposite action will neutralize the original event. The ego demands an eye for an eye, a loss for a loss, a pain for a pain. But life is fundamentally asymmetrical. No retaliatory action can truly restore the original innocence, the original trust, or the original time lost. All revenge accomplishes is the creation of a second, new injury, a fresh source of guilt, entanglement, and karma that only deepens the cycle. The highest form of freedom is achieved when we sever this attachment. It is when we finally declare that the person who hurt us no longer holds any emotional currency in our lives. Their happiness no longer diminishes us, and their suffering no longer enhances us. This realization leads us toward the higher path of awareness, where the focus shifts entirely from the fate of the perpetrator to the fate of the self. We must recognize that the most powerful act of self-love is the radical choice to disengage from the cycle of mutual pain. In the next unit, we will dissect the deceptive comfort that anger provides, analyzing why we cling to the warm illusion of righteous vengeance instead of embracing the cold. Clarifying truth of acceptance remains settled. The severing of this negative attachment is the true path to emotional sovereignty. Acceptance is cold because it requires us to mourn not only the loss of the person, but the loss of the story we had built around them. It requires us to step into the abyss of helplessness and say, "This is done. I have no control over their fate. My only task is to rebuild my life on new, fragile ground." The power of awareness lies precisely in this coldness. It provides the clarity needed to sever the negative attachment and declare the person who caused the harm irrelevant to our future well-being. We have now completed the entire analytical phase, dissecting the psychological and emotional barriers that favor vengeance. We are prepared to pivot to philosophical solutions, transforming the trauma into wisdom. In the next unit, we will move to the heart of our philosophy, the realization that the wound is not a punishment, but a profound revelation. Settle into the stillness. Allow your mind to transcend the memory of pain and focus instead on the knowledge gained from that experience. The path of awareness requires a radical shift in perspective, demanding that we reinterpret the wound itself. We must choose to see the injury not as a final, devastating punishment, but as a profound, undeniable revelation. The core philosophy guiding this transition is articulated in the serene truth. To see the wound as a revelation of a face we had not seen. This insight liberates us immediately from the cycle of vengeance because it changes the focus from retaliation to gaining knowledge. Vengeance seeks to punish the actor. Awareness seeks to learn the lesson the actor delivered. The threefold revelation: when a betrayal or profound disappointment occurs, the wound acts as an emotional scalpel, cutting through illusion to reveal three fundamental truths. Revelation of the other. The act reveals the genuine, unedited capacity and character of the person who inflicted the harm. While painful, this knowledge is invaluable. The person who wounds you has offered a gift, the truth of their limitations, their level of self-control, and their ability to honor commitments. This is the greatest piece of data you will ever receive about them. Revelation of the relationship. The wound reveals the true, often fragile foundation upon which the connection was built. It shows that the relationship was not resilient enough for reality, or that it was structured upon a misperception of the other's reliability. This knowledge allows us to finally mourn the illusion, which is far more freeing than mourning the person themselves. Revelation of the self. Most crucially, the wound reveals the strength of the self. It shows where our boundaries were weak and where our trust was blind. It reveals our capacity for deep feeling and subsequently our powerful, innate capacity to heal, survive, and reconstruct a safer future. The wound is a measure of both our vulnerability and our resilience. The power of knowledge, unlike vengeance, is portable and permanent. Vengeance binds us to the past. Knowledge is immediately transferable to the future. Once the revelation is accepted, once we acknowledge, this is who they are. This is what I endured. The perpetrator's influence on our destiny ends. The lesson is extracted, sealed, and integrated into the blueprint of a new, wiser life. We no longer need to see the other person suffer, because their punishment is already manifest in their own capacity for destructive action. Their future negative actions will be constrained by the very character flaws revealed by the initial wound. Our suffering does not need external validation because the truth of the event is now internally validated by the knowledge we possess. The pursuit of awareness means transforming the pain from an identity, the victim, into a tool, the informed survivor. The smile of certainty. This profound shift leads to the serene, powerful action described in our philosophy. We smile and step away, not because we are weak, but because we are too strong to carry the pain with us. The smile is not forgiveness in the traditional sense. It is the serenity of certainty. It is the peaceful expression of a consciousness that has received the final, non-negotiable piece of information required for survival. It is the realization that the cost of remaining bound to the conflict, far outweighs the cost of immediate severance. We step away because the continuation of the interaction would be an act of self-sabotage, a willful disregard for the undeniable truth revealed by the wound. The conscious individual chooses conservation of energy over the costly pursuit of retribution. This smile is the ultimate act of emotional sovereignty. We reclaim the power that was momentarily lost, declaring that our inner peace is no longer negotiable or dependent on the fate of the person who caused the harm. We choose to be free. We have established that the wound is a gift of knowledge. We must now apply this knowledge to the ultimate act of self-liberation, the decision to physically and emotionally separate, transforming separation from a painful flight into a peaceful choice. Rest your mind. Separation, in the context of healing, is often mistakenly viewed as failure, withdrawal, or fear. We must dismantle this illusion. The crucial question is, how does stepping away become peace, not escape? Escape is driven by panic and fear. It is a desperate, reflexive flight from the immediate sensation of pain. The person escaping often remains emotionally tethered to the source of the trauma, constantly looking back, ready to re-engage the moment the pain subsides. Escape is passive. It keeps the victim's identity intact. Peaceful separation is driven by choice and awareness. It is an active decision made after the revelation has been processed. It is a declaration of sovereignty. I have received the necessary knowledge, and my highest value is now the conservation of my inner peace. The active choice of self-definition. Choosing separation is an act of strength because it requires confronting and mastering several internal resistances. The fear of loneliness. Separation demands that we face the void left by the other person without immediately filling it. This confronts the deep human fear of solitude, but grants us the vital time needed to re-establish the relationship with the self. The urge for final closure. The mind craves symmetry and a final, satisfying ending. Separation requires accepting that the story may remain unresolved in the external world. The strength lies in providing internal closure, the certainty that the lesson is learned, making the external resolution irrelevant. The loss of the story. The most difficult part is losing the role of the person in conflict. Vengeance gives us a purpose. Separation leaves a temporary vacuum. Strength is found in the courage to invent a new, constructive purpose that is not defined by the actions of the past. By choosing separation, you are not running from the pain. You are walking away from the source of the pain. You are choosing to carry the lesson while dropping the heavy, toxic burden of the continued conflict. Peace is conservation of energy. The philosophy of separation is ultimately the philosophy of conservation of energy. Every moment spent in the presence of someone who has wounded you, or every moment dedicated to the active pursuit of vengeance against them, is an irreplaceable expenditure of life force. It is the continuous investment of your most precious resource, your attention, into a failing enterprise. The truly conscious response is to recognize that the price of engagement is too high. Peace is the decision to redirect all that energy back into the self, into healing, growth, and the creation of new, trustworthy connections. This separation is not cold indifference. It is the necessary heat required to forge new armor. It is the boundary that declares, my future well-being is non-negotiable, and I am stronger than the temptation to let the past dictate my path. This strength of will is the defining characteristic of the conscious individual. We have established separation as an act of strength. Now we must examine the ultimate expression of this strength, the difference between genuine, unattached tolerance and cold, emotional indifference. Rest your mind. The final layers of healing require us to confront the difference between true tolerance and emotional indifference. The world often mistakes true tolerance or forgiveness for weakness. The logic of the ego demands, if you don't fight, you must be afraid. If you don't demand payment, you must not value what you lost. But true tolerance is the ultimate act of self-liberation. It's not charity extended to the perpetrator. It is a radical severance of the psychological cord that binds your inner peace to their fate. Tolerance versus weakness. Weakness fears confrontation, so it avoids conflict while remaining emotionally engaged and internally resentful. It forgives with the lips, but holds onto the pain in the heart, secretly hoping for the other's downfall. True tolerance is strength because it requires the courage to say, I acknowledge the harm, but I refuse to allow your action to occupy any more space in my mind. You are irrelevant to my future. It is the choice to absorb the cost of the injury oneself, rather than demanding that the cost be paid externally. This freedom is entirely selfish. It is done for the self's well-being, not the other's redemption. The conscious individual understands that their greatest revenge is moving on, unburdened. Detachment versus coldness. The other fear is that of becoming cold, that by choosing detachment, we sacrifice our capacity for deep love and connection. Coldness, or indifference, is the complete absence of emotion. It is a protective shutdown, often rendering the person incapable of feeling deep love or pain again. It is a symptom of trauma. Conscious detachment is the result of awareness. It is not the absence of emotion, but the unattached presence of compassion. It is the ability to recognize the humanity and therefore the inevitable flawed nature of the person who caused the injury. Without needing them in our immediate life, we detach from the expectation that they should have been perfect, and the pain, the entanglement with their error. We do not detach from our capacity to feel or to trust again. Instead, we use the knowledge gained, Unit 5, to build wiser, stronger boundaries for future connections. We become discerning, not cynical. The conscious person is never truly indifferent. They are simply intentionally unattached. They understand that the highest expression of self-love is to choose peace over the constant, demanding war of resentment. This serene, unattached state of being is the final destination before rest. Gently release your mind. The journey of analyzing the pain and defining the self is complete. There is nothing left to debate, only to internalize. We have seen that vengeance is a backward-looking choice, a costly, self-inflicted bond to the past. Awareness is a forward-looking choice, a radical act of self-liberation and conservation of energy. The ultimate wisdom gained from our reflection is this: awareness never seeks vengeance. Awareness smiles because everything that happens is a lesson. The moment of betrayal, the moment of loss, is transformed by awareness into the greatest hidden gift, the hidden blessing of loss. The true gift from the person who wounded you is the clarity they provided. They revealed their truth before you built your entire life upon their lie. This revelation saves you years of compounded heartache, wasted time, and deep misalignment. The loss, however painful, becomes a hidden blessing because it is a final, irrevocable course correction, a severance that redirects your destiny toward pathways aligned with safety and authenticity. When we realize this, we find the serene strength to step away. We recognize that the fight for vengeance is futile because the universe has already delivered the only justice that matters, the knowledge required for your survival. We smile, not out of passive resignation, but out of the serenity of final certainty. We choose to conserve our energy, redirecting every ounce of resentment and rage back into the creative reconstruction of the self. The final surrender to peace. Let this understanding become your final guide to rest. You have recognized the illusion of control and the comfort of anger. You have chosen the strength of conscious detachment. The work is complete. Now surrender the heavy burden of the past. Imagine releasing the name, the event, and the pain itself. Place them gently on the ground. They no longer belong to you. The highest act of self-love is the decision to rest. Focus only on your breath, your reliable, constant rhythm of existence. With every soft exhale, release any lingering vigilance. With every inhale, welcome the profound, unattached peace of the conscious observer. You are safe. You are strong. You are free. The ultimate triumph is not in making the other suffer, but in finding peace where they intended only pain. Rest deeply now and let the truth of your strength carry you into sleep.